Hi everybody. Hello. Today it's quite late. It's just coming up to 4 o'clock in the afternoon at the end of November, so it's quite dark, dismal. So I'm hoping it's going to be bright enough in here to do a little film. But I wanted to show you a few techniques on how to do snow. So I've got 4 sections here. We're going to look at how to use salt, splattering, lifting, and just using brushes. And I'm going to first of all just take a Chinese brush or a wash brush or something like that, wet it in clean water. I have 2 pots, one for cleaning my brushes and another for mixing my colours. I'm just going to pick up a dark blue. Now you can use an ultramarine, but I'm just going to use an indigo or a phthalo blue, mainly because the technique will stand out better. And I'm just going to put this down on the splattering section. And the reason why I'm doing this is so that I can let this dry off, because I need to splatter on top of it. And onto the lifting section. Now I'm going to do this in 2 sections. I'm going to put one section down here because we're going to learn how to lift off snow on already dry watercolour, and then later I will re-wet this and lift it off on wet watercolour. And then on the brush section, I'm just going to fill this in. It's just quickly. I mean, if you're doing a proper painting, then obviously you would put your wash down a little bit more carefully than this, but it's just test sheets. All right, so then what you want to do is let that dry. Okay, the next technique is lifting. Now, this is dry, this is wet. Okay, so with the wet, you just need to take a clean brush, small pointed end, and just lift off colour as it dries. Right, so each time you need to lift off a bit, and you'll see that this works eventually. You just have to persevere because you need to leave it to dry off a little. Where it's drying off here is where it's lifting off more successfully. The wetter the area, the harder it is to lift off this snow. So just wait a few minutes. You don't want it to dry completely because it's really it's much easier to lift it off when it's what they call semi-dry. So just keep going and lifting off those marks, and you'll see it will work eventually. I'm going to leave that just to dry, just a touch. Now this one is completely dry, and all I've done here is I've taken drops of water and I'm just putting them down onto the paper surface. Oops, that one's a bit big, but just all the way, different sizes, and you can even put clumps together. And like I said on the earlier one when we're talking about splattering, you can do this with a brush. You can flick the water rather than placing it, but this is obviously a little bit more accurate, and you can be a little bit more precise about the size of the drops and how they are applied. Okay, so again, take a clean piece of paper towel or toilet tissue, whatever you've got to hand, and all you're doing is you're going to lay it down flat on top of those blobs, and you're going to press. Don't move it, just press, and you can see that that has now lifted off those droplets. Okay, so that's while it's still dry. So the paint has dried and this is wet. Okay, so now this has dried a little bit but hasn't dried out completely. We'll try again and we'll see if we can lift off, more defined. So each time you make a mark, just wipe your brush off on a rag or on a paper towel, because what you don't want is to just move this paint around on the surface of the paper. You'll just irritate the paper and it'll start coming up on you. So each time, wet your brush, wash the colour off the brush, wipe it with a paper towel, and then just press very gently. And again, you can see those little spots of snow appearing. Okay, you can see that the control is better with this, whereas this one is a little bit more haphazard. So it's more time consuming, but you can control exactly where the snow goes. And please use a small brush with a pointed end on it. Don't use a round brush for this job. And you just keep going like that, okay, until you've got as much snow as you want to have. Okay, you can use a combination of the two if you want to. It's entirely up to you. Okay.